Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining on this next session that we're having. So, in the first session, actually, I'll give you all a few minutes to come in, but I'll just start with just doing a short introduction. In the first session, we discussed some ways that you could earn income. And, in that first session, we talked about addressing mindset. And it's good because some people actually reached out to me since then and were like, please, talk about mindset. We need to talk about mindset because unless we talk about that, nothing else matters. So I took some time to really think about how I was going to put this conversation together because, when I think about mindset, yes, I want to have that conversation. And in some ways, that could be a general conversation. But because we are people who have dealt with different forms of chronic illness, specifically kidney failure, hi Courtney, transplant, I wanted to really pull in illness and how that affects mindset and also how we can thrive with those two things, working synonymously, and also to address the way we even see illness, or the way we even look at ourselves when it comes to our conditions. So one of the first things I wanted to touch on is the fact that many people who have experienced dialysis or transplant don't realize that they're often experiencing a form of PTSD. So when we talk about PTSD, we often hear about it referred to when they're talking about people who've been in the military, people who've been raped or molested, or people who've been through, some serious type of accident. Hi, Leah. So when I'm talking about PTSD today, I really want to talk about the way that serious illness can affect our views of ourselves, but also the way it can impact life. So I went on Psychology Today and actually started looking. I was studying psychology in the past, but I really wanted to give you some really specific words that stood out to me because I feel like that helps too when you're going through things, when you can put a word on it and you can really, identify what it is you're experiencing. So, when we talk about PTSD, we're talking about both physical, emotional, mental changes that go on. So this is not just something that happens physically, it's also psychologically. And a lot of people, when they think about illness, they see it as something that just happens to your body. But a lot of times people don't make the connection that illness often develops, when you are experiencing trauma or after a major trauma or during periods of high stress. So it's like there's a disconnect between the way that, the physiological or the physical connects to the mental. So I wanted us to really consider that connection when we're having this conversation. And we can have a few minutes after for questions, because I do want to pull you into the conversation and see, even if you want to make that connection, if you feel like sharing. But one of the things that really stood out to me when I was looking at PTSD was they talked about things that I've really experienced going through this, dialysis process, going through these surgeries. And I'm just going to give you a few of the words and I'm going to go and touch on each word. So one of the words they talked about was hypervigilance. So when I read that word, it automatically brought me to thinking about the medications. It brought me to thinking about the needles, even when you're in dialysis, the process of being afraid of moving, just being hyper aware, hyper vigilant. I barely sleep with dialysis because of the things I've experienced. People sleep and it's like you're just on high alert. So a lot of people think about something like in the military, when a car backfires or something like that. But when you have experienced medical trauma and you've also experienced trauma as a result of the medical trauma, possibly because of the care you've received or possibly because of the things that happened when you were going through those earlier stages, you are hyper aware of everything, hyper vigilant. So it's like anything can set you off. You're in a state of high stress. So this affects your mindset because whereas somebody who is just being or just experiencing, and of course everyone has stress, everyone has probably experienced some form of trauma, but as opposed to someone who is just being, when you're being hyper vigilant, every little thing can set you off. Every little thing has meaning. So things that in the past might not have bothered you now become big issues. Or like I said, like people can sleep through dialysis. I'm hyper aware of not only what's happening with me, but also what's happening with other people because of things I've experienced. I saw someone die when I was on dialysis when I started early on. So it's like this changes the way we see ourselves. This changes the way we see life. This changes the way we approach so many different areas of our lives. So I want you to really think about that and how you've been affected by the experiences you've had, because those things affect your mindset. It affects your outlook on the world. They also talked about numbness. So numbness, when I really sat and thought about that, it's almost like you're not feeling things the same way. So it doesn't have to mean that nothing has meaning to you or nothing feels any way to you, but it could also just mean you are losing feeling for things that once had a lot of meaning to you. So of course I associate this with depression, which is another word they use, but things that used to excite you might not excite you the same way. This affects your mindset. So you might have had goals that you were working towards, and now those things are no longer of interest to you. You might have had plans in the past, relationships, things that you really enjoy doing that no longer have the same meaning to you. So this affects the way you look at the world. This affects the way you look at yourself. This affects the way you look at your plans. It's like you're now approaching life differently. And, when they talk about depression, a lot of people don't realize they're depressed. So you might think you're just tired when realistically you are experiencing depression. Kidney failure, transplant, these are major life changes. Surgery itself can be highly traumatic, but kidney failure is something that is considered permanent. So as a part of your body that was once fully functioning is now no longer fully functioning, it's like this changes the way you see yourself. This changes the way you see yourself in relation to others. This changes the way you literally behave, and it's like we have to really take these things into account when we're thinking about our minds and how we're thinking, because a lot of times we're not even aware that we're doing this. The other day, I posted, I was thinking about sleeping all day. So I talked myself out of it, but someone could literally start doing that for days at a time, weeks at a time. That could become someone's life. I hear people talking sometimes, they literally just go to dialysis, come home, and that's it. So we really have to be aware of these changes in our behavior, these changes in our emotions. I tell people journaling is really helpful. My mom talks to me about this all the time, but journaling helps, writing helps, because you can literally see the changes in yourself when you do that. So next thing I'm talking about is anger, because a lot of us are angry and are not even aware of it. So we're lashing out, we're having mood swings, and of course the anger that you can no longer function in the way you did. So sometimes it's upsetting to be tired. I found myself literally being tired of being tired. And that can cause you to be angry. Because whereas you could at one point have done things for days at a time, gone without sleep, now you have to be more conscious and aware of almost everything you do, everything you eat. And for people on the transplant, who have the transplant, you have to be conscious of your drinking. You have to be conscious of your fluids, your eating, your medications. You're on a schedule. You have appointments. So this can cause anger. It's like your time is no longer yours. And a lot of people don't realize that. But you're now operating not only on your time, but on the time of a system. So whereas you can move freely, now you have to work inside of other people's schedules. And you have to deal with people and their stressors. And this can be highly upsetting. So acknowledge this. Be aware of it. Be aware of the way you're reacting to people. Be aware of things that trigger you, things that upset you. How you might have reacted before, how you're reacting now. Be conscious of these things, because these feelings and emotions affect not only how you are with your family and friends, but they affect how you are in the world. They affect your business associations. They affect your networks. This is something that affects you all around. So next thing I want to talk about is social withdrawal. Thank you. Yes, Will. Seeking help is something that's so great that you saw a counselor today. Seeking help is something that we need to embrace and not be afraid of. And it's something that we need to acknowledge if we need to do that. I was seeing a counselor for a while. I didn't feel like she was the best match for me, but I'm actually seeking another counselor now. Because while I enjoy talking to all of you, I want that one-on-one time where I can explore what I'm feeling, what, I felt in the past, the things that helped me to get to this point. Like me neglecting myself. Like I want to really explore those things in a private setting, one-on-one with someone who really understands these things and has taken the time to study them. And there's nothing wrong with this. And a lot of people are like, should I tell anyone I go see a counselor? It's up to you what you share. But, part of this is stigma. And there's a stigma that goes along with illness. And there's also a stigma that goes along with mental health. So it's up to you what you share. But also be aware of the reasons that you don't want to share. Be aware of what it is that's making you want to hide these things. Because that is a part of your experience. And those reasons are part of how you're coping. So it's like you really want to think about why you're doing what you're doing and how it's affecting you. Because you might find that not sharing also isolates you. And that's something I want to talk about, is that social withdrawal. I'm really thankful that I was able to connect with you all. And that's helped me a lot. And I know that a lot of people, even in these groups, I see a lot of people in these groups, but it's like a lot of the same people talking oftentimes. And we have to understand that when you experience major illness, chronic illness, something that you're dealing with on a day-to-day, that can change the way you are in your relationships, your romantic relationships, your platonic relationships, your familial relationships. You could withdraw. And that, again, is a part of depression as well. But be aware if you catch yourself withdrawing. Maybe tell people, I'm dealing with this. I feel myself withdrawing. I feel myself isolating. My mom saw me isolating. My mom told me to get on. She was like, why don't you go and find people who are going through these same things? And so that's what I did. I started going to the groups. And I started getting kicked out of groups. But doing that has really helped because I see I'm not alone. I see what the other side of this looks like. And while I haven't seen anyone who's like healed their kidneys, I still see people who are coping with this, who are living with this, who are thriving with it. And just being in community with people can be highly empowering. It can create support systems that you didn't even know you needed. It can give you safe spaces to share your ideas, safe spaces to share your concerns. And it can also help you get advice that helps you. So don't be afraid of telling people. And of course, like I said, it's your comfort level. Share to the extent of what you're comfortable sharing. But don't be afraid to let people know that you're going through this. So I brought up stigma because, a lot of us don't realize, but there's a lot of stigma that goes around illness. So when I think about health, one of the things that for me earlier on was upsetting to me was I looked at it like, how could this permanent change have happened to me? How could I have let this happen? And we have to get to the point where we realize that we are experiencing these thoughts, but people are also going to look at us sometimes differently. And we have to get to the point where we don't let that bother us. But we have to understand that there's a difference between feeling like something's wrong or feeling bad and you being bad or having less value. So you might not feel well. Your body might be going through these changes. You might be experiencing a bout of illness, but that does not mean that you are a bad person. It does not diminish your value. So when you approach life, whether it be business, whether it be friendship, whether it be anything, you have to understand that you're still entering those situations as a whole person. And I found that a lot of people in dialysis settings or in medical settings often silence themselves and see these other people as the experts. And it's like, you are the expert on you, period. No one lives in your body other than you. So you need to enter situations as a whole person and being aware that you are an equal to that person that you are interacting with. And they might be more educated on that subject matter. But when you enter that situation, ask them to educate you. Ask questions. Like you are not of diminished value because you're experiencing an illness. You are still a full person. You are not a bad person. You know, this may have happened because of different reasons, but that does not change the fact that you are still a whole person who deserves to be respected, who still has a voice, and who can still accomplish many great things. So I pulled up some really great quotes for you because I have a book that I love. It's called Think and Grow Rich. And I feel like this book is really helpful and applies to so many different moments in life. And every time I look at this book, it speaks to something different for me. But I really wanted to start with this first quote because I just feel like this is like a really great way for us to kind of like ease into this conversation. So what he says in this book is that, hold on, here we go. When you begin to think and grow rich, and this is on page 16 in Think and Grow Rich, and I am going to post the book for you, the PDF format, so you can read it yourself. When you begin to think and grow rich, you will observe that riches begin with a state of mind, with definiteness of purpose, with little or no hard work. So let's really think about what he's saying there. Riches begin with a state of mind. So a lot of people think, yes, thank you for joining, Angela. A lot of people think that they need to have $1 million. They need to have the money to get something done. Not realizing that you, in your mind, your attitude is where those riches begin. So let's say that you come into a room, right? Let's say it's you, and you enter that room, you have your transplant, you're on dialysis, and then someone else enters that room and they're a millionaire. And there's people in that room who can help you achieve a goal you have. For example, my goal, I'll share one of my goals, is to have a holistic wellness brand that spans across this country, with centers and ambassadors spreading health and wellness knowledge. So I could walk into that room and not have that $1 million, but have those riches, that state of mind that I can achieve anything. That with the right support, with the right attitude, I can get things done. I can be obsessed with what I'm doing. That person can enter that room with that $1 million, but have a horrible attitude, a horrible mind state. They could have self-doubt. They could be doubting everything. That mind state that we enter that room with will speak to the people in that room. Exactly, Courtney. It's worth more than money. So I'm sorry, I'm still a little sick. I want you to really understand that your mind state is worth more than gold. People meet your attitude. It's like you fill a room with that. Your presence is felt. And if people believe in you and they believe that you're serious about your vision and they believe that you're really passionate about what it is you want to do, people will support you. People will literally offer you their help because you know where you're going and they want to just see it be manifested. So we really need to stop, holding on to this idea that I need to have $1 million to make $1 million. You need to have that state of mind, those riches that begin with that state of mind, that definiteness of purpose. So a lot of people are like, I just want to make money. Definiteness of purpose means that you have a sense of purpose. There's a reason for you being there. There's a reason for what you're doing. Be very clear about your reason, because you can tell people whatever you want to tell them, but people can feel your reason. So I could tell you, I'm doing this because I enjoy it. But if all I do is sit here and try to sell you every single little thing, then obviously there's another reason I'm here. So be very clear about your sense of purpose. Be very definite about that, because that is going to be like your guide. It's going to lead you through this world. So you might decide on that. Yes, exactly. Yes, it's a calling. It's a lifestyle, like you said, Courtney. This is not just about making money. This is like, what am I here to do? Because it affects every aspect of your life. If you are about helping people build their businesses, that affects every aspect of your life. That means you're studying this, you're meeting people, you're always learning, you're about that. If you're about health and wellness, that means that you are doing things to heal. You're doing things to learn about health and wellness. If you're about animals, that means that you are learning about animals. You're constantly doing things with animals. You're looking for opportunities to be in places with people with animals. So you can speak and say whatever you want, but your mindset speaks for you. It's like it radiates outward. So be very clear about your sense of purpose. And he says on page 10 that you have to stand by that purpose until it has time to become an all-consuming obsession. So people will talk about what they want to do. They will tell you their goals. They'll tell you their dreams. But the question is, what are they doing? How are they spending their time? Because I could tell you anything, right? But what am I doing with my time? That is going to show you what I really want. That's going to show you what's really important to me. Because those minutes in that day are investments. If I'm telling you that I want to do a certain thing, but I'm investing all my time watching television, or if I'm telling you that I want to be healthier, but I'm investing all my time eating like fried donuts, like obviously there's a disconnect. There's a disconnect. I always make up words. So obviously, I'm not in alignment. And it's like you can fool yourself, you know what I mean? But you can't fool the world, because it's energy at the end of the day. You're spending your energy doing one thing and you're contradicting yourself. So make sure that this is something that you really want. Let it become an obsession. Hi, Steve. Let it become something that consumes you. A lot of times we think about obsession as a bad thing because a lot of people become obsessed with other people or obsessed with financial things, money, jewelry, clothes. But your sense of purpose becoming an obsession is healthy. Let it be something that makes you want to get out of bed in the morning. Let it be something that you think about. Yes, your passion, like you said, Courtney. Let that passion become an all-consuming obsession. Eat, sleep, dream it. I posted a video earlier. I hope some of you watched it. It's a TED Talk. And she's talking about visualization. And she's saying that she had a dream. She had a vision. And she would literally see it when she was walking around. I literally envision this. When I go places, I envision myself walking down halls and opening my doors. I envision myself in classes where we're learning together. I envision these things. I feel them. Like you have to really feel it. Become obsessed with it. And I meet people who tell me things they want to do, and I'll suggest things that they could do for free, but they're so caught up in the money. They're like, no, they're not going to pay me to do that, so I'm not going to do that. Oh, I'm not getting paid to do this, so I'm not going to do that. And it's like, the money comes with the work. If you're not putting in the work, who's going to pay you? Why am I going to pay you if you can't show me that you can really help me do this? Why am I going to pay you if you're not showing me that you're really about it? So the money will come, but get obsessed, get excited. Fill your time with those thoughts. Fill your time with researching. You know what I mean? Go to spaces that make you think about it. Go to spaces that make you feel it. Really get obsessed with it. Okay? So on page 11, Napoleon Hill talks about the causes of failure. And he says that one of the most common causes of failure is the habit of quitting when one is overtaken by temporary defeat. So let's talk about temporary defeat, because when I was on life support, I definitely had the thought in my mind I wasn't going to be here. And, going through illness can feel like we're defeated. You know what I mean? It can feel like my life is no longer my life. My life has changed, and that's that. But at the end of the day, if you're alive, you're not defeated. That means that you might have been changed, but that means that there's still potential. There is still opportunity. You're still here. So you have to understand that you have not failed, because you're still I hate to say the race, but you are still in the race. You know what I mean? You are still, I would say, on the track, because it's like a track kind of. Yes, exactly, Gordy. Like, you still have a chance. So you might have to slow down. You might have to take a different route than you wanted. I thought I would be a psychologist at this point. I got kicked out of my program before I got sick. I might have to change the route. Because what's funny? I was actually laughing about this earlier. I'm like, this is the kind of stuff I want to do anyway as a psychologist. So it's like sometimes you might have to change direction. You might have to take another path, but don't lose sight of the vision. Because if it's an all-consuming obsession It doesn't matter if you're sitting in a hospital bed. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in a wheelchair. It doesn't matter what it is you have to do to make or to take steps towards that goal. You're still taking steps towards that goal. You might have to ask for help in ways that you never did. You might have to get more creative. But that all-consuming obsession, if it's truly your obsession, should still remain. It should still be something you are consumed with. So remember, illness is not failure. The two are not equivalent. Illness, you know what I mean? Whether it be psychological, physical, where again, I say like the physical illness is just a manifestation of a lot of the psychological trauma, you know what I mean, that we haven't been able to truly reconcile. And I actually pulled up this book that I really liked that one of my professors shared with me when I was in the program, because they talk about that. And I'm just going to read this little, I like giving sources. So The Cure Within, A History of Mind-Body Medicine. And they talk about a patient. And in her case, they found that it was helpful to encourage the patient both to remember things and to acknowledge the feelings associated with these things. So yes, Courtney, listen, I say reading is amazing. They hide so much stuff in books, but even if you don't read, audiobooks, okay? Because this might be an audiobook, somewhere. I'm sure you could probably find this on Amazon as an audiobook, or like Audible. So, you have options, okay? And you can put them on when you're going to bed, put them on when you're getting ready in the morning. Like, my friends laugh at me because I try to play like 7, 12-hour audiobooks to them. But listen, your subconscious is always active. So it's like, even if you're not even aware that you're listening, you're listening. So, you know what I mean? Like, put it on when you're at work, whatever you're doing, cooking, cleaning, just put it on in the background. But yes, they said each memory needed to be turned into words, into a true story that could be spoken aloud and shared, so the body no longer needed to function as its mute narrator. So, this is like, I actually highlighted this in the book when I was working in the program, because a lot of times we're not even aware of how traumas and unreconciled stresses are affecting us. And I'm not saying that speaking them, writing them, that's going to heal you. But what I'm saying is, by speaking them, writing them, sharing them, you can become aware of them and how they affected you. So that way you're not still caught in that cycle of reacting. So now you can be proactive instead of reactive, and that empowers you. That changes your mindset, because now you're not in a state of always being under attack and not even knowing which direction it's coming from. It's like, no, like now I'm aware of why I'm reacting to you this way. Now I'm aware of why you reacting to me that way or acting that way towards me affects me in that way. And it's like, now we can have more of an authentic exchange, because I'm operating more from a state of like being, rather than being back here in the past. You know what I mean? Being back there where these things were happening. Now I'm right here with you in this moment. So that affects your mindset, because now I can focus on right now and moving forward instead of being stuck back then and being, like trapped essentially mentally. So, earlier I was talking about stigma, and one of the things they talked about was alienation and how that stops you from asking for help. So when it comes to your mindset, right, a lot of times we get so caught up in this, like, I don't need help, I don't need anyone, I can do this on myself, I got this, right? You are not alone. You have to understand that we were created to exist in community. There is power in community. There is a reason that communities that stick together thrive. So a lot of times there's mistrust, distrust, you know what I mean, jealousy and things of that nature. But don't alienate yourself. You know what I mean? Don't allow that stigma around illness to allow you to alienate yourself, because that's why a lot of that stigma is created. It's a form of control. Don't allow anyone's opinion of you, or perceived opinion of you, because they might not even have that opinion, but either way, it doesn't even matter. Your opinion of you matters, right? Your opinion of you matters, okay? That is the most important opinion, because whenever you walk into a room, that is what speaks the loudest. People can say or do whatever they do to you. Yeah, I did it too, Courtney. Like, I'm speaking from experience, I lost my dad when I was young. I experienced major traumas over the years. And even my condition started after a major trauma. The condition that led to the kidney failure. So yeah, like that really resonates with me. You know what I mean? Feeling alone, feeling isolated. And this is a way to disempower us. And this is a way to keep us quiet. This is a way to keep us from sharing and healing. And the only way we heal, that's what that quote in that book is so powerful. We heal by releasing. We heal often in community. We heal by healing each other. You know what I mean? Like, that's how we grow. Listen, and you know what? I'm happy that we all are in this group together, because if you felt alone before, don't worry, you'll be hearing from me and up in there every day. Okay? So you're no longer alone, okay? Just not on the Messenger app, okay? But in the group. Okay. Let's talk about fearing judgment, right? Because when I was in college, I failed public speaking. I never wanted to do public speaking. What I'm doing right now, I would have never opted for this. Never in a million years. Never, ever, ever, okay? Because I feared the judgment, because of the way I spoke. People used to make fun of the way I spoke. I've had people make fun of me for so many stupid reasons, you know. Even now, people still mess with me. I'm just way more secure in myself to where I can laugh about it too, because I know like I could be really extra. But fearing judgment, when you have an illness, a condition, health condition, mental health condition, you know, anything that people might say is a disability, you know, there's a lot of judgment. But again, the most important judgment is yours, because you determine your value. You determine your worth. So what I'm going to say to you is, people are going to judge you. People are going to judge you people have been judging you since the day you were born, literally. They will judge you to the day you die. But if you can get into the point in the mindset of where you are judging yourself highly, evaluating yourself as a highly valuable person as you are, not looking at what you don't have, but what you have. Because a lot of times we get so caught up in like what you can't do, what is hard, what's difficult. It's all hard. It's all going to take work. Literally surviving, our bodies work so hard to even help us just get through each day. It's all going to be work. The question is, where are you going to put your focus and your attention? And yeah, that's what this is all about, Courtney. Like, our mindsets, you know what I mean? The way we think, like the way we see ourselves in relation to each other, the way we see ourselves in relation to the world, that is how we move through this world. That is going to affect even how you feel about money. Hi, Shannon. Because think about this, right? How you feel about money helps to determine how much money you make. I made no money in my business in the beginning because I was afraid to ask for money. I gave so much away. Time, products. And then I realized I'm creating some really amazing products. Why am I not charging people? I offer really great services and support. Why am I not charging people? I have bills. No one's paying my bills. I wasn't even paying my bills because I didn't have any money. Unless I would get a job and then I would work hard for someone else. And yes, I was paid well in many of these jobs. But the question is, why was I willing to work harder for someone else than for myself? I had those 24 hours in a day. Why was I willing to allow someone to tell me when to get up, when to go to bed, when to eat, when to make phone calls, instead of me deciding that I could do that? Why was I willing to give away my power? Because I didn't trust myself? Because I didn't feel like I was capable of leading myself? So really think about that, you know. Where are areas in your life where you're giving away your power? Where are areas in your life where you're avoiding empowering yourself? Where are you being silent where you should be speaking up? How much value do you believe you have? Do you believe that you deserve to be making money? Or do you believe that you deserve to be getting what you're given? Why do you feel like someone deserves to tell you how much money you deserve to make? Like, really think about these things, because how you feel about money, you know, a lot of people are walking around with poverty mindsets, you know what I mean? Always afraid, always in a state of fear. And that's control. And I understand where a lot of that comes from. It could be, you know, the way you were raised. It could be, you know, things you experienced. But remember, you are now at a point where you can become aware of that and you can decide, I have value. My time has value. My services, my abilities have value. And you determine what that value is. Because think about this, right? There are people out here making $1 lip balms. There are people out here making $37 lip balms. Like, I want you to really understand that. You determine what your value is. You tell the story. You determine what your disability or your illness means to you. So if your disability to you, or your condition, your kidney failure, you having a kidney transplant, you being on medications, you determine if that makes you less of a person when you walk into a room. No one else determines that. I decided that when I walk into a room, I walk in as Tamika. I don't walk in as dialysis person, kidney failure person. No, that's a part of my experience, but that's not who I am. That doesn't diminish who I am. If anything, I feel like it's made me a stronger person because it's made me aware of what I'm able to go through, survive, and then still push through, to still thrive through. A lot of people will never experience hardship until they're at their last moments. You know, and a lot of us don't realize the gift that comes along with what is considered illness. There are things that we have experienced, things that we have seen, things that people will never go through, that we have survived. And yes, Courtney, like, I understand that. You know what I mean? When I was on life support, right? It's like literally people washing you, feeding you, everything, right? You know? And it was like, I felt like this serious disconnect from my body. But that was when I realized that this body, this is not me. Yes, it is what I am. It's almost like this is what I'm experiencing life through, but the spirit, you know what I mean? That energy that you have, that's you. You know what I mean? So remember, like, maybe you shouldn't even feel human. You know what I mean? Maybe you shouldn't feel human. Maybe you should feel really like, and I don't know like what you ascribe to spirituality wise, and I'm not going to even say it's like, but maybe you should really speak to, you know what I mean, the God in you, for real, because that energy in you, this body is going to come and go, but that energy in you can resonate on for eternity. You know what I mean? It's up to you what you want to give to the world, what you want to leave here. You know what I mean? And like you said, yeah, it's like, yeah, so you understand you were on life support. Like, anyone who's been on life support, like, this body is going to come and go. It's going to go through some things, as you know. Anyone in this chat right now, you know. This body is going to go through some things. And honestly, going through those things shows you how strong even this body is. Because the things that we have been through, kidney failure, surgeries, transplants, dialysis, ports, all that, this body has survived. But what has helped that body survive is that spirit and that energy. Because in those moments, when that body was weak, that spirit was strong. That energy was strong. And your spirit sometimes is not going to match your body. Sometimes one is going to be stronger than the other. You know what I mean? Sometimes sometimes that spirit is going to be the only thing that helps you hold on. You know what I mean? But that's what I'm saying. Like, they don't have to match. But what does have to match is that sense of purpose and the work you're willing to put in. That obsession, that all-consuming obsession, that has to match. Because we could say what we want. I could tell you all the things I want. But if that energy doesn't match that, it doesn't matter. So I want to share another quote with you. Because, you know, I have people tell me, so, yes, push through spirit. Like you said, Angela, like, really. I've had people tell me so many things are impossible. And I know I'm going to sound a little crazy. I'm like, still like, my kidneys can heal. You don't know my kidneys. But, you know, you have to believe it. But, you know, people always say, like, what's impossible? And on page 16, Napoleon Hill says, one of the main weaknesses of mankind is the average man's familiarity with the word impossible. He knows all the rules which will not work. He knows all the things which cannot be done. So I want to think about times in life or things you've shared with people, and they were just like, they just told you all the reasons that it was, oh, they had so many reasons it couldn't work. It's like, oh my gosh, like, did you study this? It's almost, oh my gosh, I had a conversation like this. People will bring you stats, and stats and research, but they won't bring you the stats and research for why it can work. But they'll put all that time and energy into why it can't work and what they can't do and why it's impossible and why they're going to fail. But what if you put all that energy into why it can work and why it is possible and why you can do it? So really, like, reverse those words. Sometimes when you catch yourself saying what can't be done, reverse it. I can. Inverse it. You know what I mean? I can. I will. It can happen. It is possible. You know what I mean? Because it's like you're tricking yourself. And if you have to trick yourself, go ahead. Because at the end of the day, that's what this is about. The mind. The mind is like, that is what's really experiencing all this. Like the mind, the spirit, like that is what helps us regulate through this world. That's what helps us travel through this world. So really, like when you catch yourself saying why things are impossible, why they can't be done, why they will not work, I want you to think about why they can. I want you to think about why you're the person who maybe had that thought and maybe why you're the person who has to get it done. And I want you to really, and I'm not saying become obsessed with every single thing. Really think about affirmations, you know what I mean? Really, like think about and really think about why maybe you're the person who has to do it. Why maybe no one else has done it because you're the one that has to make it happen. Really, like get to that point where you're like, I have to do it because it hasn't been done. These people say it can't be done. It's up to me. You know what I mean? And put in that time, put in that effort, put in that research. So in this group, one of the reasons I started the group is because I'm like, income. We need to empower ourselves financially. A lot of people like to say like, oh, I don't care about money. Money doesn't matter. No, you have to, money is energy. So when you're moving through this world and you're trying to do things, there is an exchange that is always happening. So, they say like cash grass or, no one rides for free. You have to be able to exchange something. So maybe that's your time. But if you're exchanging your time, then that means your time has value, which means that you're probably offering a skill. You're probably offering some form of support, encouragement, some form of knowledge that you have accrued or been able to gain. It's like everything has value. There's always an exchange going on. Your time has value. A lot of people don't realize this. They'll give people their time, not realizing how valuable it is. Don't let people eat up your time. Like, that's time that you could be spending doing something. That's time you could be investing, making yourself more valuable. So really think about that. And on page 25, Napoleon Hill talks about this. He says, money consciousness means that the mind has become so thoroughly saturated with the desire for money that one can see oneself already in possession of it. So now, I want you to really think about this, right? Because a lot of times we're like, oh, I don't have the money for it. I don't have the money for it. Stop saying what you don't have money for. Really. Stop saying what you can't afford. Stop saying what you can't have. You know what I mean? You're working towards it. You know what I mean? Instead, change those words. Take away those can'ts, won'ts. Yeah, time is money. Yeah. Take all those words that are in the negative and just reverse them. And not to become obsessed with money, but conscious of money. Realize that there's a desire for money. You need money to get things done. Especially when you have a health condition. Money is necessary. Money will help to protect you. Don't feel bad for being conscious of money. There's nothing wrong with that. Most of the people I meet who are like, I don't care about money, don't have much money. They might have a lot of time, but they usually don't have much money. So it's like, don't become obsessed with money, but be conscious of money. When you're exchanging your time, you should be learning something. Like I tell people, if you get a job, you should be learning on the job. You shouldn't just be sitting somewhere for 8 hours, 12 hours, how many ever hours a day. You should be learning. Get jobs where you can learn something new that will help you to move forward in life. Because that time is being taken from you. Don't just get something where you're sitting around. Like Angela said, time is money. Be conscious of that. Be conscious of the amount of money you need to achieve your goals. If there is a goal that you have, be conscious of how much it will cost. Even if you don't have the money right now, so that way you can say, I'm working towards this very specific, definite amount of money that I need to achieve this goal. So it's not about us, just always everything being about the money, 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 but you should be investing your time. So if you're investing your time, be gaining something in return. Knowledge, you know what I mean? Knowledge is one of the most priceless things you can ever gain. Information, you know what I mean? Like, let there be an exchange, you know what I mean? Always be giving. A lot of people are takers. Like, my mom's talking about this book called Givers and Takers. There are a lot of takers in this world who are like, gimme, 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 gimme. But givers often end up gaining. Because you learn. Talking to you, I'm learning. Talking to you, I'm being reminded of things that I need to be more aware of. Talking to you, I get ideas. You know what I mean? So it's like, don't be so focused on what you can get all the time. Be focused on also what you can give. Because you have so much to offer that you sometimes are not aware of. Because a lot of times we're so caught up in the stigmas. A lot of times we're so caught up in the depression, the isolation, the loneliness, the fear, the flashbacks. You know what I mean? All these things that are associated with PTSD, which a lot of us don't know we're even experiencing or have experienced because of the illness or traumatic surgeries or the way that the illness manifested itself or the thing that brought it, into manifestation, that we're not even aware of what we have to give. Because we're in this place of like, well, how can people help me? Because I'm having a hard time. But guess what? Everyone's having some difficulty. There are people having a much harder time than you. What can you give? What do you have to offer? What has this experience empowered you with? You know what I mean? Like, you have so much to give. And I want you to really become aware of that and conscious of that, because that can affect the way you even see the world when you walk into a room. Now, when you walk into a room, you don't have to be thinking like, oh, well, who's that person? Do I need to talk to that person? Oh, like, you don't have to be so worried about always like getting from other people and how they can help you and what you need, because now you have things to offer when you walk into a room. You know what I mean? Yes, Linda, like, this is the truth. Like, when I walk into a room, I'm not only thinking like, yo, like, who do I need to talk to? I'm like, yo, what can I do with this person? Like, how can we build? Like, I was on LinkedIn today just hitting people up like, can I come talk to your office about kidney failure? Like, I don't care if I get paid. Like, I just want to come in and talk to them. Because a lot of them are not aware of it. And I just want them to be aware of this thing that exists. Period. You know what I mean? And don't be afraid to ask people questions. I ask people to buy product now. Like, I'm like, hey, you use lip balm. I sell lip creams. They're amazing. I made them for people that are talking about the things you're talking about. Buy it. It's like, literally ask people for their money. Literally ask people for their time. Sorry. Ask people to teach you things. In the group today, there was an exchange between, I think his name is Servan and Shamika. And like, literally, people, and it was another person. I forgot his name. But if you look in the group, you'll see people were asking for information. Don't be afraid to ask, because the person who teaches also learns. You know what I mean? It's like, you learn when you teach. You know what I mean? Because someone taught you. Napoleon Hill's been dead, but he's taught me things. You know what I mean? You probably learned from this conversation right here. So it's like, don't be so focused on like what you can always get. Remember, you have a lot to give. And again, like, that comes to you recognizing your value. You know what I mean? You're a highly valuable person. Remember that, no matter what anyone says. And we're getting close to that time. So I just want to, share one more thing with you. On page 10, Napoleon Hill says, psychologists have correctly said that when one is truly ready for a thing, it puts it in its appearance. So now this is not about you saying what you want. This is about you being ready for that thing. So now people get ready for the party. People get ready for work. People get ready for all these different things, but they don't get ready for the goals they have. So if you're getting ready for a goal, if you're getting ready to start a business, that means you have to be preparing mentally. You have to start thinking of yourself as a business owner. Start thinking of yourself as a freelancer. Start thinking of yourself as a person who moves through this world offering in exchange for income, who asks for money and does not feel bad about it because you're offering things of value. You put in the time to offer those things. You're able to offer them because you invested. You got ready for these things. So now that you're ready, they're being put in your appearance. You know what I mean? They're appearing in front of you. A lot of people talk about wanting relationships, you know? And it's like they want relationships, but they're busy being sneaky. They want a full relationship, but they don't trust. It's like, no, like you have to prepare for things. Like people want to have babies, but don't prepare for pregnancy. You have to prepare your mind, your body. You have to prepare your body to be a business owner. Long days and nights. You know what I mean? Like that obsessive, all-consuming obsession, that takes energy. Like we said, it's all energy, right? That is something like you have to really be aware of. Like you are constantly preparing. You are getting ready for something. So I want you to really like, you know, this week is it's 9:50. I don't want to go over the time. I want you to really think about what it is that you're getting ready for. Because whether you know it or not, you're preparing for something. So a lot of people are aware of it. Most people are not. A lot of people are preparing for poverty and are not even aware of it. They're spending all their time and energy preparing for illness. They're spending all their time and energy preparing for destruction. Prepare for what it is you want. But then make a decision. Like Napoleon Hill said on page 10, adopt a definite purpose and stand in that purpose. You know what I mean? Be aware of what you're preparing for. Be aware of your actions. Become aware of your thoughts. You know what I mean? Silence yourself. Like really sit and think like, why did I do that? Why did I react that way? You know what I mean? Instead of just reacting, you know what I mean? Really understand where that behavior is coming from. So that way when you enter a situation, you're fully aware of like how you're operating and what it is you are seeking, you know, in that exchange. Are you seeking validation? Are you seeking to give? Are you seeking to take? You know, like be aware of that when you enter into a situation, when you enter a conversation, when you enter a room. You know what I mean? Because when you enter a room and you feel like you have a lot to offer, you don't need to be chasing anyone around. You don't need to be, afraid of what someone does. You know, even when it comes to dating, you know, like I really think about dating is like people are afraid to ask difficult questions because they're afraid of the answers. I always go back to Lauryn Hill. She told us, if you're looking for the answer, then you got to ask the question. If you're looking to earn income, then you got to ask people for their money. If you're looking for information, then you have to ask people. You have to look for it. You have to research. You have to invest. And you have to prepare and be ready for when those opportunities appear. Because let's say an opportunity appears, you're talking all that stuff about what you want, and the opportunity appears in front of you and you're not ready for it. What's the point? It's like you literally said this thing you wanted. I'm sorry, my throat is dry. You've been talking about this thing you wanted. Now it's here and you're not ready. So it's like, you know, people say like stay ready so you don't have to get ready. You have to. But you can only stay ready if you've been preparing. And at least if it approaches you and it appears and you're not fully ready, but you have like most of those tools, you can be like, hey, like I might not know everything, but I've been getting this stuff together and I'm pretty sure I can figure it out. And I just want to give you a real world example of that because, you know, I still laugh about this. I was literally selling cookies and gluten-free cakes on the streets of Brooklyn. Walking around my little decorated basket with little birds on it. And I had friends who were like laughing at me. And this barber asked me if I could make him a hair cream. I was not making skincare. My mom and my grandma, my mom specifically, had been into like making, you know, like scrubs and things like that, like mixtures with the oils. I would use her stuff, but I wasn't making them. But because I had been preparing mentally and, you know, my whole cooking and baking, I was preparing, even though it's like, it might not be the same industry you think about. It might not appear in the way that you want it to appear. It might look different than what you expect. But if you've been preparing, preparation is preparation. Skills are transferable. Like I used to apply to jobs. I got some jobs this way. I would apply to jobs I know I didn't qualify for. Maybe not to them, but I knew I had been preparing for them. I knew I could do the work. So get ready because those opportunities don't wait. So let's say there was someone else who probably could have done the skin creams who would be doing what I'm doing now. And I'm not saying like I'm like the furthest along. But what I'm saying is like, because I was preparing, when someone asked me, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, no, I can't do that. It was like, you know, I don't know exactly how to do that, but you know what, I'll figure it out. And you'll find that could lead you down that path. So this week, because I plan to do these weekly because I'm like having a lot of fun with them. This week I want you to really think about how you're preparing, what you're preparing for, your thoughts, like what it is you're thinking about. Because your thoughts are what lead you through this world. If you are always preparing for destruction, that means how are you going to also take the time to be preparing for growth and great things? You're always preparing for destruction. You know what I mean? It's hard to do both. You can't be completely obsessed with two different things. You know what I mean? It doesn't really make sense. Like, you have to choose. Make a choice. Make a decision. Are you going to isolate, alienate, stay in that place of feeling that you have less value because of your experiences? Or are you going to decide that you have so much to offer? And Courtney, it is a battle. It's an ongoing battle. Every day. But it's worth it. You know what I mean? And when you need, and that's what I'm saying, like, you have to do this, it helps to do it in community. Because when you're frustrated, that's why in battles, people go into battles with armies, right? People don't, in the movies, it might be two people. But even in the movies, they don't go in there one-on-one. They go in there with their crew. You know what I mean? So whenever you go into a battle, you come with your army. And when it's just you in that room, remember that it's never just you. A lot of times we forget this. It's never just you. I'm sitting here with you, but inside of me is my mother, my father, my grandfather, my grandmother. It's all in me. They're all in us. You know what I mean? Like, literally. Like, I lost my grandpa the same year I almost passed. Like, 2017, I lost my grandpa. We were very close. We'll talk almost every day. But when I enter a room, he comes with me. You're never alone. You know what I mean? You're not fighting this battle on your own. And like I said before, when you have, that's what they said here, a definite purpose, you'll be amazed by the warriors that show up right next to you. As, you know, the Urban Kidney Alliance says, you know what I mean? It's like you'll be amazed by the warriors that will show up right next to you. And they won't just be people who are surviving kidney failure, who are on dialysis, who are post-transplant, pre-transplant on the list. It's going to be anyone who that desire resonates with. You know, exactly. The ancestors are always with us. You're never alone. You know what I mean? And you're not fighting this battle alone. And this is not a new battle. You know what I mean? It looks different, but it's not new. You know, so whenever you feel that way, remember, like, you have all that in you, all that power, all that our ancestors, all that our ancestors survived. Imagine that, like, the fact that we're even here. Not only what we survived, but the things our ancestors survived. For us to be here in this moment, yeah, we're more powerful than we even realize. And that's what I'm saying. Like, walk into spaces knowing that. Walk into spaces empowered with that knowledge that you have value. You add to the situation. You have a lot to give. And don't let these experiences determine outcomes. Because this is a part of your experience. It's not your experience. This is a part of your experience. Remember that. This is just a piece of the puzzle. You know what I mean? Like, there's so much more to this. This is a piece of the puzzle. This is not the whole thing. This is like, it's almost like we're baking a cake. This is just one little ingredient. This is one ingredient in that cake. So you decide what it is. I'm going to just go back through some terms with you because I want you to really think about these. You decide and put some thought into what you want. You decide and put some thought into what it is you desire. You let that become an all-consuming obsession. Wake up with it. Go to sleep with it. I want you to eat with it. I want you to shower with it. Like, really, get excited about it. Talk about it. You know what I mean? Get other people excited about it. Like, really, let it become that. And watch how different it is when you enter a space. Because now when you enter spaces, you really know, I'm coming in with something to give. I don't have to worry about what you have because I'm full. You know what I mean? Come in full. Don't come in starving, because people can tell. They can sense it. It's energy. You know what I mean? Come in not full of yourself, but full of awareness, full of that energy to give. You know, because you don't lose. You know, you gain. So I really appreciate you being on this session. I really have fun with this. And I think we're going to do some more talking about this, because I just feel like, you know, I do understand how hard it can be to really get to this point, and how it is, like you said, like it's a battle, like Courtney said, you know. And I want for us to really enter into each little fight of this battle prepared, you know, with the weapons, the ancestors' knowledge, awareness with us, so that way we can see the outcome. That way we can be productive and effective and not waste time. Well, truly is never really wasted, but let's say invest our time more productively and effectively. So, oh yeah, like I go through it, you know what I mean? And that's why I say, like, that's why you have to become aware of your thoughts. Or when you catch yourself slipping into depression, when you catch yourself isolating, becoming angry, becoming depressed, you really have to like become aware of like what's happening. And even if you have to just take a minute and just sit there and be like, what is happening? Like, why do I feel this way? You know, what is this reminding me of? You know, like really talk to yourself. You know what I mean? Really have a conversation with yourself, and like write it down if you need to. Writing is really effective. You know, expressive writing is literally a form of therapy, therapeutic writing. Write. And don't even have intention. Don't even think about it. Just literally just let yourself just write. Whatever comes out, just let it come out. And you can burn it and throw it out if you want, whatever you want to do with it. But read that and see what comes out of you. Sometimes just record yourself just talking and see what comes out. Let the subconscious just run and see what comes out of you. Because you'll be amazed sometimes at the stuff oh my gosh. All right, one more quick story and then I'm going to be like, okay, we're going to go through a couple questions. If you have any questions, put them right in the comments and like, I'll go through them with you too. But I'll share one day with you when I was about to go out, sell my product, right? So I just caught myself and I literally became aware of my thoughts, but I said to myself, no one wants to buy your little arts and crafts projects. You're a grown woman sitting here mixing up butters and selling them on the street. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, am I really talking about stuff like this? Like, I literally caught myself saying this to myself, like out loud. Like, I was talking to myself this way. And I just decided, like, put your phone down, take your stuff, and just go outside. Don't even worry about selling. Just go outside and just talk to people. And, like, share what you do. Like, don't even worry about the money. Just go and have fun. Just share. Talk to people, experience. And that's what I did. And I ended up making money that day. But it was like, really, like, listen to the stuff you say to yourself. Because we're so worried about what other people are going to say to us and do to us. We say a lot of things that are worse than what anyone will ever say to us, to ourselves. So really think about what you are saying to yourself, how you think about yourself, you know, like, where those thoughts have come from, who helped you develop those thoughts. Because a lot of this stuff is from childhood, it's from when we're young. We're adults. You know what I mean? Like, really acknowledge these things. And I'm just going to read this to you one more time, because I just feel like this line really speaks to me. And I really want you to really think about this. One helped by encouraging the patient, I'm going to say the person, because this is just general, you know, both to remember things and to acknowledge the feelings associated with these things. Acknowledge those feelings associated with the experiences, with the things that happened. Each memory needed to be turned into words. Turn those memories into words. Don't let them just live inside of you. Turn them into words. Even if they're words you don't speak to anyone else, write them down. Say them to yourself. Record them. Play them back to yourself. Turn them into words. Get them out of your head. I'm going to read that sentence again because I got into it. Each memory needed to be turned into words, into a true story that could be spoken aloud and shared, so the body no longer needed to function as its mute narrator. The body is going to speak. The body is going to release, whether you want it to or not. The body has to. So you can either help the body, or you can force yourself to keep on reliving the situation. You can force yourself to get sicker, or to hold that in and to manifest it in other unhealthy coping ways, coping strategies, or you can release it. So, like I said, you don't have to share it, but release it, period. You know what I mean? Because that helps you, and you have important work to do. You have so much to give. So give that. So again, this is the book, The Cure Within. It's a really good book. You might want to check it out. A History of Mind, Body, Medicine. Our next session, we are going to actually be talking about podcasting, and we're going to get into blogging a little bit. So I know some of you are really interested in that. I do have a podcast called A Crazy Dream, and I think a podcast is a really great way to share, to learn, and to also like to really put some of those things out there, like to put a voice to some of those things, you know? So you might really want to explore that. Before we meet, if you want, you could check out Blog Talk Radio. That's a platform that I found to be really helpful. They have different educational type articles on there. And you can also just go on YouTube if you want to just go on YouTube and just get familiar with what podcasting and blogging is if you're not familiar with it. Or if you just want to see like how people do it too, because looking at what other people do can help you to also like think of ideas. It can help you to think of like what you don't want to do. So we will be connecting again on Tuesday at 9 p.m. Thank you so much for joining. Oh, and do you have any questions? Because if you do, we could go through those really quickly. And if not, I will see you in the group. And I'm going to post the PDF of the Think and Grow Rich book, so that way you can check it out too. And I'll post the quotes that I use, because I like put them on like a little email, so I could just go through them really quickly with you. All right, so if not, thank you so much for joining. It was really great sharing with you. I'll see you in the Naturally Inflamed group. And remember, you have a lot to offer. So give. Give. You have more to offer than you even know. All right, I'll talk to you soon. Night. Oh, it's funny. I'm on the computer, so I was like trying to finish it, and I'm doing it on my phone. All right, take care.